right, let's get going. Thanks everybody for turning out to meeting number 51. I know that Karen is not going to be here today. Karen is still in the middle of the mall's budgeting process, or I guess with Simon's budgeting process. So she's pretty busy. As we do every time, if anybody needs a break, down the hall and to the right. And if we have to leave the room for any reason, it's down the steps, out the front door, hang a left, and rally around the parking lot in the back of the building. For those that are watching on Route29Solutions.org, you can go to panel meetings and then go under advisory panel documents, and you'll see the agenda as well as the presentation for today's meeting. So let's get started with our introductions. And Henry, why don't we go from the bottom of the alphabet this time?
Bryce Carwash Consultants.
Chris Engel, City of Charlottesville.
Brad Sheffield, Elmore County Board of Supervisors.
Kristen Sakis, City Council.
Mark Graham, Albemarle County.
Morgan Butler, Southern Environmental Law Center.
Chip Worrells, the Planning District and the MPO.
All righty, and we'll start with you on the technical team here today.
Lou Hatter, VDOT Communications, and pitch hitting for IT.
And you do it so well. Thank you. Thank you.
Al Jones, VDOT, Charlottesville Residency.
John Lynch, Culpeper District VDOT.
Debbie Messina, Philip Chiquette Company.
Dave Covington, VDOT, Charlottesville Residency.
Joel DiNunzio, VDOT Charlottesville Resident Engineer.
And we have a couple of guests from VDOT with us today and from the Secretary's office.
Grinley Johnson, Deputy Secretary.
Michael Jones, I'm with Culpeper District.
Welcome, welcome. All righty, let's get going. Lou, if you can beat us up to one more. Yeah. Still running about the same. Still more than a half dozen people tuning in online at Route29Solutions.org. About the same number of streams and about the same average number of minutes per stream. Kristen will remember back when there were 3-digit numbers of people tuning in of the first panel. But a real steady group of folks out there, and we're glad you're with us out there. So, as far as our comments that came into the inbox and the website last time, we had 12 emails and phone calls that Lou either got on his phone or in the inbox. One commented about the Berkmar extension webcam. The live camera that's out there was not functioning, and it was something to do with adjusting the solar panels, and that's all up and running. So appreciated that comment. There was one comment that was from someone who favored a bypass that just said that the Ohio GSI was not sufficient to really address Danville's and Lynchburg's concern, and we certainly appreciate that comment. One inquired whether or not there were plans to extend Hollymead and Ashwood. We've talked about that a few times here, and as you'll remember, there are not any plans for those extensions currently as part of Route 29 Solutions. Those discussions need to bubble up from the county and through the MPO, and there might be some bubbling going on, but that'll have to come through that process. There was another comment about weaving at the GSI, and we talked a little bit about that last time as well. I think that's something we just need to continue to watch. Remember, those weaving distances are a little greater than they used to be, but traffic is traveling a little faster coming out of the GSI on the through lines. One commented that the traffic shift, remember we made that traffic shift on Route 29 widening to the southbound lanes, and one commented that that traffic shift at Route 29 was putting southbound traffic in the wrong lane for when it got to the GSI. I have to admit I can't quite wrap my head around that comment, but the long and short of it is, that's a temporary shift. There's a good bit of distance between that shift and the GSI.
You have to know that you have to change the.
You have to know that you have to change when you get there, which there are signs letting you know that you need to do that. And that was a pretty recent change when we got that comment.
When the Parkway first opened up, there were people who actually, when they came across at K-Tech heading southbound, they would actually get in the wrong lane. I think sometimes the lane shift is just hard sometimes.
Yeah, I think the thing to remember there is that we will be 3 lanes in each direction in the ultimate configuration, with the south where it belongs and the north where it belongs.
People just have to turn off their internal autopilot and pay attention.
Yeah.
Well, the question is,
And maybe
the
turn off
lane
the-
closest to the median, feed into the lane closest to the median on the other side of the bridge.
Will the lane closest to the median feed into the lane closest to the median on the other side of the bridge?
Going from 3 lanes to 4 lanes, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
No, right now, what's going on is.
I know what's going on right now.
The shift is tied into the same place at Polo Grounds where it was before.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And what will happen is we'll widen to the inside one lane.
To the
It'll be just like it is today, we'll widen to the median side.
Okay,
By one
so
lane.
if you're next to the median, you will wind up
In
on
the
the
press.
second one from the median.
Yes.
Okay.
Once you get on the south side of the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of compliments for getting Rio reopened early, which is a good thing. One commented that the continuous right from Rio westbound to Route 29 northbound is creating some conflicts, and understand that. Any ultimate build out of the contract there, remember there will be those, why did I forget what we call those for a minute?
Bollards.
Yeah, the bollards that will be delineating that turn lane. Will help people know that there's a separation of traffic there until it gets past that area. And I think putting those delineators up was something that bubbled up out of this group actually. One noted a drainage issue at Albemarle Square interest, and I know that got back to Chris Reed and the project team, and I think that's been taken care of. One inquired about the stop sign at Hillsdale and Branchlands. Actually, it was an inquiry because there was a little law enforcement action that took place with somebody that missed the stop sign. But that stop sign does come out. If it's not, is it already out? The Hillsdale and Branchlands
The stop sign?
stop sign?
No, it's still there right now.
Okay, but that comes out pretty soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
We spoke about it this morning.
Right, that was there for the detour?
Not soon enough for the person with the ticket.
Not soon enough for the person that drove through it, apparently. One commented that there should be GSIs at Hydraulic and Greenbrier, and another commented that there should be GSIs at Hydraulic, and as we talked a bit, that's something that needs to also bubble up or not from the county, the city, and the MPO. One commented that there were not any lane arrows or signs on Berkmar at Rio, and this would be Rio East, to direct traffic to the proper lane. The arrows and signs are there, so I don't know if we need more information on that one. Lou, did you get any comment back from that individual?
I never got any acknowledgement of the reply, but we
Okay.
did send a photo that
Yeah.
showed the arrows are there. I think it may be that where they turned out of the entrance, they may have been right on top of the arrows before they realized they were there.
Okay.
This may be related to a comment I got, and that is that the cars that are stacking up are covering those arrows. So we did this for the 250 entrance ramp, to where you put arrows further back.
Yeah.
So that as cars stack up and cover that stuff up, a car coming up can still see them. The comment I got was there need to be arrows further down, further north on Berkmar.
On Berkmar?
Was this the
Provide-
traffic
But I think
southbound?
us
or
trying
northbound?
to address that situation is what prompted the comment.
because we did move the arrows quite a ways away from the intersection where they used to be.
Somebody pulled out after them.
An entrance.
Could be that too.
Okay, same thought, but just in
The
reverse.
comment I got the comment from somebody
Okay.
saying that the stacking of the traffic covers up the arrows and they have
Okay.
a lane to be in.
Well, can we keep an eye on that? Let's keep an eye on that as we're watching everything else in the corridor. One commented that the Cars Brook speed bumps need to remain in place.
Yes.
But those are gone, aren't they?
No, we sent
Aren't-
a work order to remove those yesterday morning.
Okay.
And the tentative schedule is September 1st for removal.
So
To
what time
remove.
do I need to be out there to stop them from going?
He's gonna lie down in front of the bulldozer.
I will.
We put them down, if you'll recall, to help calm traffic during the close down at,
And it's nice and calm now.
at Rio, and apparently they made some people happy. It worked
You can't
well.
make it out there if the cars don't start, right?
Two commented about rough pavement at Rio, and I understand where that comment was coming from. But we talked about the final pavement getting started on Monday, and it got started on Monday. I know you had some milling work to do that first day. Dave, what's kind of the schedule for completing that work?
It'll be completed next week, so they've been milling all this week. They've milled the northbound lanes, the southbound lanes, the approaches to the new southbound lanes on the through lanes. Tonight, they'll start putting down asphalt.
Okay.
They will continue to keep milling. They'll probably do the wedging tonight, and then over the next remainder of this week and into next week, mid to late next week, all the asphalt will be done, as well as the paper striping.
Okay, good deal.
Nice
Good
fresh
deal.
asphalt. Part of the reason why it's taking the time that it is because they want to make sure they get everything smooth, so the final asphalt is a good riding surface.
There was some comments, and I think we even had one last time about, well, why did you pay a bonus if the paving wasn't finished? And, you know, the reason is because the contractor met the requirements for the interim milestones, which was that interim paving, and this is part of finishing up the contract. One commented that dump trucks were running red lights and traveling in the same, kind of taking up both lanes on Route 29. Actually, that's a repeat of one we had at our last meeting, and just say there again that that's a constant topic between Dave and the lane corpsman, and actually, I guess a bit of a defensive note here. It's hard to tell whose trucks people are talking about on all of these comments, so we'll do what we're supposed to do in terms of continually reminding everyone to obey the law, be in the right lanes, don't speed. And to be honest with you, I think lane corpsman folks are doing a pretty good job of that. One commented that signal timing needs adjusted on Rio and at the GSI. Joel's going to bring us up to date later in the agenda on just these continuing observations and adjustments that we're making on some of the signal timing, and that'll take more than one or two meetings to settle itself out. We got 3 postings on the website to provide input piece. One suggested, and they borrowed this from something that's, to my knowledge, I don't know of it being anywhere other than in Atlanta and around Atlanta in Cobb County, but those are signs that say, give gap, take gap. For some reason, I don't know that that's the sign I would put up, but what that refers to is as you're merging and you see those gaps, give a little, take a little for that zipper movement when you merge. If VDOT would be so inclined to put up give gap, take gap signs, I guess you
I think
could.
a sign that you could put up would just be nice.
Or a zipper as
Yeah.
it's rolling up. But anyway, I do know that is something that's in use around Atlanta and maybe on that beltway in Cobb County. Other than that, I'm just not aware of it. That doesn't mean it's not being used. One commented about trucks speeding on Earlysville Road, and there again, people need to keep letting us know about it, and all. If somebody has something specific, or a license plate, or a picture, and it's one of our folks, we'll be a lot more serious about it, obviously, but they just is continuing daily conversation on everybody's mind, because the contractor's well aware that we're getting these comments. One commented about the contractor receiving a bonus. This kind of ties to that other issue. When the project was not complete, this person was pretty irritated about about not requiring the final paving as part of the bonus. So appreciate that feeling. The contractor did meet the requirements, and go on from there. Chris Reed is not here with us today, but the project hotline got a couple of calls, mostly another one about trucks, and one about, this was on Rio Mills Road, so this is more related to Berkmar, and potentially the quarry, but same deal there, we're constantly talking about that. And one commented about mail delivery, which, understand that one was a specific day when a regular mail driver was off. There was a temporary or a sub person delivering some mail, and with those lane shifts, maybe a few people missed their mail. But I know Lou circled back to everybody on that one as well. So that's sort of the public feedback from the last couple of weeks. We really didn't have any open items from our August 11th meeting, although I did recall, I think Kristen asked the question about splitting out the design build budget for the specific projects.
Don't think it was me, but sounds like an interesting
It
question.
might have been him. Yeah, okay, it might have been Henry. Kristen used to sit in that seat
Yeah,
firsthand,
long ago, yeah.
so that's why.
He looks like.
Second pack. You don't know, it's a second pack. Forget the first pack.
Are we in Charlottesville or Atlanta?
Hindenburg is running for Congress. He's not here.
That's true. We can talk about that a bit when we get to the budget piece, because I do have that.
I was interested, what does
Yeah.
grade separation interchange?
Right.
Roughly,
Cost
what's
of
the
design.
Right. Well, when we get there, we'll talk about what the design build piece was, but there are other pieces to that.
Because Mark wants to build 8 more of these things. We need to know how much it's going to
Good.
cost.
We'll need to know. We'll total that up. Okay. All right, Lou. This is the part where just see if anybody's got anything on their mind for a future agenda or questions over the last couple of weeks. Chip.
One thing from a recent meeting, I was asked, agency head along the Hillsdale project, said that it seemed like it just wasn't as much information being shared, especially by emails and newsletters and that, of the Hillsdale project and changes going on. Very complimentary of the Rio stuff, but just felt like they weren't getting the same amount of information about Hillsdale.
You know what? I can understand. I can understand that, and we're aware that as Hillsdale tunes up, which you'll see it is more now, we have some schedule information. We've got more to say, but we probably could have thought about that more over the last maybe couple of newsletters, just to say, hey, things will be coming online. But soon, I think probably with the next version of the newsletter, you'll start seeing some schedule information and activities that are going to be taking place as Hillsdale ramps up. I do believe, from talking with some folks also, not everybody was aware. Again, this is a good lesson for us, that maybe Hillsdale was not on the same track schedule-wise with all the other projects, and that we just now are bringing the contractor on board. But thank you for that Thank you for that, Chip.
One thing to add to that, the city has their own newsletter on the project where someone can go to their website.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount
It
of
would be good to
information.
have it though,
We-
available when people look.
Yeah, we want to get it in one spot. We want to get it in one spot and the link's there and.
Have it just automatically,
but-
when they do theirs, have it pop up on yours or something.
We'll get that. We'll get that. And the city's website went through a little revamp, after a couple of years, so, thank you, thank you. Anything else, Chip?
No.
Okay. Morgan?
I don't know anything, thanks.
All right. Mark?
When you come back to talk about the signal timing at Rio, I would like to expand that to
Okay.
include pedestrian
Okay.
signals and also just looking at some of the pedestrian issues. I've been out there trying to walk it, and it's not easy to walk, frankly, because going, if you're on the west side of Rio and trying to go south, you've got to go out in that little aisle
Okay.
to activate the signal. It's kind of scary when you stand out there, to be honest.
Okay. Because you're crossing that
Right.
continuous right turn lane?
Right, and then the other thing is, I know you guys have a pedestrian sign with the guy walking and the little arrow and everything, but I think some people think that's more of an open season sign than.
Target practice.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be in running.
I think that's what maybe it was supposed to be turned so I know to run, but anyhow, it's something I'd like to just kind of look
Okay.
into. It looked a little scary.
Okay.
On the east side, I'm not sure the activators are working on Rio Road. I tried to go across this at noon today, going from the SunTrust down towards the vitamin shop, and stood there for about 8 or 9 minutes, 3 or 4 light cycles, and never did give me a walk. So
Okay.
I don't know what that is. Timing it the other ways, though, the other two ones, I was finding it took me about 6 to 7 minutes. If you just walk it and push the signal, wait for it to say walk and go. So I'm real curious about the overall time.
Okay. When you say the other one, Mark, took 6 or 7 minutes, which was the other?
Excuse me, the other two sections, crossing Rio Road on the south side.
Okay.
Both signals there, and then crossing Rio Road on the west side, and crossing 29
On the south side. Okay.
That took about 6 or 7 minutes.
A piece?
No, for the whole.
Total,
the whole
okay.
cycle.
Okay, all
So
right.
what I'm trying to get at is
Uh-huh.
I'm suspecting that it takes about 10 minutes if you were walking on the north side of Rio and wanted to keep going on the north side of Rio to make those 3
To make
turns.
that loop. Okay.
I'd like to kind of look at that and see.
Okay,
See
absolutely.
what it really is.
All right. Okay. We'll keep bringing that up for a bit.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about the other signal timing, it might be a good place
Yeah,
to put it and just
okay.
kind of wrap it all in there together.
Yeah, all right. Thanks. Good idea. Good idea. Kristen?
So I drove a traffic pattern that I had not driven before on my
Okay.
way to a birthday party at Thai 99-2.
Okay,
Gardens
all right. Gardens Boulevard?
Yeah.
Okay,
So I was northbound on 29,
okay.
and so I needed to turn right on Gardens as people were coming down from Rio on that entrance ramp. And it was a little scary, and I almost didn't make it. Somebody kind of sped up so I could come behind them. But if they hadn't, I would have had to go all the way down and make a U-turn and come all the way back and try again.
Did you come through the through lanes?
I was
or-
underneath.
Okay, so you came through the through lanes and you needed to weave over.
I needed to weave, but people were coming
The
down, and I
Gardens.
couldn't see them soon
Mhm.
enough to be able to really get out of the way to make that turn because it was so quick at the bottom of that ramp. It was before the ramp was really over. So
Okay.
nobody was really looking for me to turn either. I made it, safe, but I just wondered if other people are having that difficulty and if there's anything,
Well,
I
I
don't know
think,
what you can do about it, but
I think that's part of these comments about weaving.
Yeah.
And,
You were turning into the.
I was
gardens?
going
Turn
north
into
and turning
Gardens.
right into Gardens.
Okay, because I was trying to turn out and I wanted to comment on that.
Oh, okay,
I would've been a
okay.
turn come-
Somebody like me came shooting across, right?
Yeah, I want to go just the other way.
Because I had to cross 3 lanes of
Okay.
traffic to turn right.
Right, right. So you had to cross
Well, mine and two
from the
others.
through lanes, across the merge of the local lanes and turn right into Gardens.
Yeah.
Would the preferred movement be to go up to the local lanes and then go up?
And that would be, it might be worth
It-
having a sign saying Gardens Boulevard exit.
I would think it would, but you
I'll
would have to
note that
know,
next
but you would
time.
have to know
Yeah.
that too. So,
Should have been on the local lanes.
Yeah, now I would do that, but I didn't know because I knew it was, you know, when I looked at
Yeah,
Google, it
yeah.
had it coming out on
Right,
49, so I just
right.
kept going.
Okay,
That's
okay.
hopefully local drivers will
Yes,
figure out over time.
yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think we also have to be sensitive to it a bit and not be defensive
Yeah.
about, well, this is it, and
And-
drivers ought to figure it out.
And I don't want to
Because-
suggest at this point
Yeah.
closing gardens, the turn in there, because there may be an easier way to deal with it, but, you know, if you could somehow encourage people to do that,
Right.
the ramp instead to get there, it would be safer.
Henry's going to enjoy the fact that you made that comment.
Because it's so.
Oh, I know, yeah. But no, that's a good, thank you. Your observations, I mean, and ones that you bring to the table from drivers or pedestrians are really going to be a helpful piece of capturing information. So thank you, Kristen. Anything else? No? Brad? Henry?
Just picking up where Kristen left off, I had the opposite problem. I was getting out of the gardens and needed to go southbound. So I
It needed to go south, okay.
Which meant I had to cross
Four
all the
lanes of
lanes
traffic.
to get to the turn at Woodbrook to
Right.
make the U-turn. And that's a little bit scary. The local lanes, at least, you know, some of the traffic is held up by the red light,
Mhm.
but the turning traffic is not. So, you know, normally in situations like that, you have a platoon that is created by traffic.
Mhm,
But here it was coming at me, and it was mid-afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock or so, it wasn't
Mhm.
even rush hour. And it was scary. You know.
Yeah.
Now, maybe at my age, I get scared a little bit better than when I was younger. But,
You're not the only person your
There-
age driving out there.
I was going to say, yeah,
But,
this is not an ageist situation.
I don't know, but it was a little bit scary.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if there's a solution, but
Yeah,
it's a fact. I mean, it's there, and I can see why the comments come up. And there were other comments here that, along those lanes, where I have some questions. And one was, and this is
yeah.
just curiosity, how would a person from the general public know that a camera is not working at a particular place, like the one that was recorded?
The web camera.
It's a
But-
visitor cam.
There was,
Oh, they were looking
at it on the webcam.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Because I figured, if I'm driving, how do I know?
It didn't flash, and I know.
Well,
it
I
wasn't
should
blank.
say, I presume they were looking at it on the webcam, and it wasn't working.
Well, okay. Now
Yeah.
that makes lots of sense.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
something some people somehow could tell.
Very
Maybe
diligent.
The little red light on top wasn't working. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
You straightened me out on that one. The weaving comment, yes. that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
We talked about. The dump trucks, running whatever crazy. I think they get paid by the load, don't they?
I'm not sure exactly how they're being paid.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
maybe that's the origin of the problem. They get paid by the load. The quicker they dump a load, come back at another load, more money they will make that day. So that may be.
It
maybe an
might
underground
be, I
model.
know I know operating within all traffic laws is a big deal
Yeah.
for the contractors, but
We know that, but
Yeah.
maybe that explains why it keeps happening, that you have a conflict of interest.
I don't know how much of that work is still,
The only hauling.
Being
that's going
done,
on
though.
Right now is from the south side of Brookmar up 29 to Town Center and in to the north side of Brookmar. We've been keeping a close eye out for any trucks associated with Lane Corman, subcontractors, their own trucks, whatever. There have been people that have been sent home for not obeying traffic laws by Lane Corman. The hard part for us is if we get a complaint, we have to know what truck.
Yeah, I understand. but
They continually remind their truck drivers about obeying traffic laws. So it's a little bit.
if you are aware of anyone who mentions that to you, be sure to let them know, not to do anything dangerous, but if you can grab a plate or if you can just identify the truck, that'll help out. Yes, sir.
If I may, we got multiple complaints from one individual, and I have attempted to contact that individual multiple times and asked them to provide us with some detailed information. If they can give us a plate number, a description of the truck, the name on the door panel, anything that will help us identify. And I have yet to receive a return phone call or any return contact from this individual. So.
I want to be clear, you all know, we're not going to presume that it's not us.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to make that presumption. I do know that we talked about this many times, and I know how much Dave is staying on top of it, just as a reminder, and Lane Corman is aware that we're talking about it every other week here. And we'll continue to stay on it and do our part, and should we get some specific information, we'll take action. Just as Dave mentioned, there have been truck drivers that have been sent home, and maybe even sent a further distance.
Well, that's why I was wondering, in other situations in business where you have an incentive on one hand and you have a rule on the other, and the incentive
little cross purposes.
conflicts. And that's why it keeps happening, because there's a perceived incentive or actual incentive to break the rules. I have one more.
Yes, sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
And it has to do a little bit where Mark left off. On the pedestrian crossings, you have these islands. And for some reason, the islands are built with some dark gray concrete. It almost looks like the same color of the blacktop. And I find myself driving and being careful that I don't hit these things. Because they, at first sight, it looks like it's continuous blacktop.
It may need paint.
You know probably why or how.
They're stained. That was one of the recommendations that came up about the hardscaping, was having a appearance of cobble, so they're stamped and stained a darker color, so they don't look like normal concrete. I think they probably turned out a little bit darker than we anticipated.
Okay.
When we apply the final paving striping, the thermoplastic will help people.
Will that delineate the islands?
Yeah, it goes around the nose of the islands.
Is there a way to do a temporary version of that now? Because it'll be a week before.
I don't think it's a serious problem, but it's something that surprised me, that at least the curb I expected to be kind of the white standard concrete that you use on curbs, even if the slab is dark gray, but something that really shows, hey, this is driving surface and this is another surface.
Presumably it would have been clear if there had been
right now,
standing on it.
There's essentially no contrast. And actually, if you do that, that will help.
Well, why don't we take a look at it, Dave? You might do what you did around the manhole covers.
You can also paint the curb with cementitious paint, which essentially changes the color of the concrete and adheres to the concrete.
Let's take a peek at that.
Anyway, that's just a comment.
But I think the final striping, as you said, will
right now,
delineate
it all
the
blends together visually. And that's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. In terms of our milestones, if you'll recall, we moved the last half of the year up, and we added the first half of the year for 2017. On the GSI, we're finishing up work that needs to be done for that December 2nd completion date. Lighting is, and this is pedestrian and roadway lighting, at about 95% complete. It's supposed to be finished by the end of this month.
Next week.
Next week, okay. So we should be able to turn that one green, and wall staining then would kick in on the heels of that. Landscaping and hardscaping's at about 75%. Getting the temporary crossovers all put back in place. Got underway this time since the last time we met. Starting on a few punch list items. Obviously, the punch list won't finish until we get to the end. That'll be the last thing that cleans up before contract completion. Paving is getting underway. Well, it is underway. So it looks like that's going to take less time than we might have anticipated based on what you're saying. So that's good news. Route 29 widening. The jack and bore is about 90%. And Dave, do you have that had an August finish? Got an idea where that might land?
Yeah, that's gonna extend out a little bit because they're hitting rock.
All right.
But it should be completed in September.
Okay. The phase 7 grading, drainage, paving, getting underway, and that's that long item that we talked about before. Phase 2 grading up another 10%, 40% complete, 3 and 5 up a little bit to 30% complete, looking to finish those up in November and December. Berkmar still, man, just really pumping out there. We'll hear more from Dave on his updates, but roadway construction both north and south of the river, 50% complete. Pier construction notched up to 100, gets us started next month or probably already into the construction of the deck. And I know you've got some delivery of cranes. Steel girder erection will be getting underway. Sanitary sewer relocation 100%. And on Hillsdale, we've got some stuff now that will be getting underway, and we'll start turning these zeros into some progress numbers that everybody will be interested in seeing, and real glad. Do you know, well, maybe Hal, when you update us on Hillsdale, you can mention where we are in that schedule review and getting that schedule nailed down. That would be great. I think we did this last time. Best Buy ramp is off because we finished. So,
however, I have a question. Somebody who owns property nearby wanted to know if the staining of the sound barrier wall is going to occur on both sides. I assured them that yes, both sides.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll be done with that one.
I know.
Yes.
But there was the question where will they do it? Both sides also facing somebody else's property.
Yep.
And I assured them that you guys were going to do it, and I want to make sure
we could review our paint mix, our stain mix.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, do you mind if we quickly revisit what Henry brought up with the staining of the pedestrian islands and the kind of lack of a differentiation between those and the roadway? But I think you mentioned they may have ended up a bit darker than anticipated. I think a big part of the purpose of trying to do that was to distinguish the pedestrian areas from the roadway for safety. If it ends up that it's not a good distinction between the two, is there a possibility that it could be restained a lighter color?
If
go from dark to light?
If when we finish the paving and the pavement marking, if there's a safety issue out there with differentiation, we'll sit down and talk through that and figure out how to solve it. But I think we need to get that paving and pavement markings in place, and then see what we think. It is dark. I mean, there's no argument there.
Yeah,
it's dark.
Unfortunately, part of the purpose was safety.
Yeah, but
I also couldn't tell really where the slab ends and where the actual pedestrian is. I couldn't tell that.
Yeah. There again, that feedback is important now, because we don't want to be in a position of saying, no, we did it, we're done, within reason. I mean,
There's a guardrail that could be redone, right?
Debbie finally had to tell me to let go of the guardrail. I was I was with Henry on that one, like, oh man, Debbie, let it go.
Over yet, right?
You never know.
We'll revisit. Otherwise, we blame you, Christian. City council. Somebody got to take the blame.
It's because I wasn't in the room.
That's right. All right, Dave, why don't you take us through the updates?
Yeah, I apologize, I left my little laser pointer at home, so if I have to refer to something high on the screen, it might be a little bit of a challenge, but we'll go over all the projects and kind of where we're at this week, what work's going on this week and over the next couple of weeks. We do have a couple big things coming up. You'll notice that just like at our last meeting, the number of items on the Rio GSI is dwindling, which is to be expected. So this week, they're still working on those punch list items. Phil mentioned in the schedule that they're out ahead of that. We've given a lot of our punch list items already to the contractor to let them go ahead and get started on early. They finished up the wall repairs this week, which is a very good sign, so they're getting that prepped for the staining. Phase 3 mill overlay and striping, which is what's occurring this week and next week. Miscellaneous sidewalk and curb work remaining. I don't think there's any left, but there could be until we possibly change the color. But I think they finished up all the curb work and sidewalks. Installing loops on Rio and 29, the traffic detection loops. I think that's actually going to get pushed into next week. They want to coordinate that with their paving so they're not coming in and cutting new pavement. So you'll have a seamless surface there. Pulling the conductor at Rio Berkmar signal, which, as everybody remembers, is actually a part of the Rio GSI project. Building that signal and installing the foundations. Next slide.
Hey, Dave, why don't you just, I think you did this once before, but we use that term wall repair.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just refresh everybody's memory what type of repairs and what that means?
Yeah.
Is that unusual or usual?
No, it's not unusual at all. I mean, anytime you're placing that much concrete, especially as fast as it was placed with the form liners and how that has to be installed and vibrated, when you pull those off, there are spots that need to be touched up. That's what they've been working on. There were also a couple of spots that were pressure injected, so you use ports through the form work underneath the bridge on those section of walls, and when they pressure injected it, a couple of spots where the forms actually moved a little bit, so they had to go in there and tear them out, cut them out, and actually replace those. So that's what we mean by the wall repairs. You don't want to just pull your form work off and go stain it, because it'll look terrible for the rest of its life.
So we're not talking about structurally repairing a wall.
Yeah, that's right.
It's more about finishing than
It's not
repairing.
broken, it's just not finished.
Well, to us it was repairs because we said this isn't right, so go fix it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what it is. It's aesthetic. It's not structural. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
pointing
Thank
that
you
out.
very much.
I don't actually have any pictures of Rio this week. Probably the first time I think we haven't had.
This
pictures
is the
of Rio.
first time, no pictures.
Because quite
Yes.
honestly, not a lot has changed out there.
We could have
Building
pictures of
this
wall
week.
repairs.
Wall repairs would be very boring, but as far as when you drive through it and look at it, not a whole lot's changed. I think once they start doing the staining, we'll take some pictures of that and get the through lane lighting by the next meeting. The new pavement, I'll be sure to take a picture of that on day one. So lane closures, I mean, right now it's nighttime closures for the milling, for the overlays. Once they get the pavement done, I expect that it's probably going to be at night closing down the through lanes to get in there and do the staining. To let them have access to that, plenty of capacity on the local lanes for nighttime traffic. Next slide. Over the next 2 weeks, finishing up the striping, the press roadway lighting, that's next week. Cabinet controller construction at Rio Berkmar for the signal rebuild. Installing the loops at Rio Berkmar for the vehicle detection. Completing the signal pole foundations at Rio Berkmar and installing the signal poles at Rio Berkmar. So over the next couple of weeks, really a lot of focus on Rio Berkmar, not a whole lot on Rio, other than striping and lighting, and the same lane closure configuration. Any questions, comments on Rio?
I'll just say that this delay in the final paving is actually something I've always liked to do when I do construction projects. It's the one time
Yes.
So it'll be up near Hollymead, a little bit south of Hollymead. Yeah. Temporary drainage pipes, now that they've got access to the southbound lanes, they're trying to get water away. So they're installing a lot of temporary pipes that will eventually come out. Aggregate base, where they're continuing to install that median. So where the southbound lanes are now, to the right, if you're driving in those lanes, you can see that curve. That's actually the future median, so they're trying to build the rest of that out. Demolition of the northern section of the southbound lanes up near Coles. Permanent drainage installation, so a bunch of other pipes like 1521. Pond 6 drainage installation, these are the drainage pipes that get that water to the pond, get it away from the pond after it's settled. Forming and pouring the retaining wall at Coles, which has already happened this week. Jack and bore structures 8-1 and 1220. So these are south of Ashwood and north of Ashwood, almost to Hollymead. Those have been a bear. We talked about the schedule. They ran into unexpected rocks, so the production at one point actually went down to a foot a day. They're back up to anywhere, it's variable now, between 3 and 12 feet a day, depending on how much rock they're hitting. But it's taking a little longer than we thought. The good news is it doesn't slow down anything else on the schedule. So,
Dave, who took the risk on that geotechnical?
so that's Lane Corman, 100%.
So if it takes longer, it's on them.
Yes. Yeah, there's no additional cost to VDOT or the taxpayers on that. And there hasn't even been any discussion about additional costs. You know, our discussions, we have weekly Jack and Bore meetings, all of our major operations, we have weekly meetings. And the status update last week and this week have been improvements in the condition. They've got to get a plan to finish it up pretty quickly, but those two are just slow.
Let's remember that very early on, we talked a lot about risk identification, risk allocation, and there's an example of the risk that the contractor took.
I'm sure on any project as long as this one, you expect it's going to be somewhere, you just don't know where.
Yeah, they expected to hit. I'm sure they have money built in for that reason.
Yeah. You take risk, you add a little money for accepting it. Maybe it works your way, maybe that.
Contingency.
Nothing to be real, panicked about at all, but it's a good observation that's going to stretch into September. Hopefully no longer than September, but things are starting to look better than they did 2 weeks ago, so that's good. So a couple of pictures here for 29 widening, and this will just give you an idea of how much work is actually going on out there. This picture is actually a week and a half old, I think, Lou. I think it was actually our picture of the week picture on our website last week. But I think it's a really good one. That's the Ashwood intersection. And you can just see they're really stretched out. There's an excavator up here pulling these slopes back, tearing out the asphalt that's not needed, putting infills and pipe culverts and all those things. So this is at Ashwood looking north up on the hill where the power line poles are on the southbound side.
And does that asphalt, as it gets pulled out, go toward Brookmar as well?
A lot of the asphalt is actually used in places like Brookmar on the haul roads, so that they're not tracking mud. Absolutely. I mean,
I remember the stuff from Rio was, but I wondered if there was still.
Yeah. No, it's almost like gold because you can put it down and not have to worry about rain or mud. Excellent. So this is up on the northern side, right there at the back entrance to the Coles, looking south, so you can kind of see all the work that's going on in here. We've got a big fill in there. You probably have been driving past that for years and noticed there's that big low area down there where the stream is. We've got a culvert that runs all the way across now, and they're bringing that fill up. And you can see the slopes, how they're just kind of pulling those back for the future widening. Everything gets pushed over to the west a little bit. So. Okay, lane closures this week. Periodic nighttime lane closures. Really haven't been any nighttime lane closures recently because they're not working very much at night. Generally, if it's some equipment coming in or barrier walls that they need to move, same thing that we've been seeing for several weeks now. So over the next 2 weeks, continue to place and compact fill material where they have those low sections, temporary drainage pipe installations. Cut to fill grading is when they're taking a bulldozer and basically pushing from one section into the next and cutting material and using it to fill the next section. Completing the demolition on the northern side of the project near the Coles. demolition of the southbound lanes on the southern side of the project near Ryan Mills. So these are those transition areas that they have to get into. Permanent drainage structures, completing the retaining wall at Coles. It was formed, it was poured, it's curing now. They'll have to strip off the formwork, clean that up. That wall actually also gets a treatment, just like the retaining walls at Rio, has the pattern and stained. Jack and Bore, continuing structures 8-1 and 1220, and installing the curbing in the southbound left lane side.
The permanent southbound, not the current southbound.
Yeah. So they're working on that median,
Yeah.
and they'll put the curbing in, continue to work on that side. And same thing for the lane closures. Periodic lane closures at nighttime, single lane. Any questions on 29? Okay. Brookmar, the project that nobody gets to look at very often. Erosion control, continue to work on that. That's a continuous process. We've got 1.8 miles of road that's opened up, and keeping an eye on things like silt fence and erosion control traps and basins and things like that. Continuing the excavation south of the river, so they've now gotten into that roundabout area right there at Hilton Heights. So they're excavating that out, and you can kind of see how that's shaping up for the roundabout now. They completed excavation of Pond 8 this week, slope finish grading.
And Pond 8 is where?
Pond 8, there's 8 ponds on the project, thank you. Pond 1 is all the way on the south end, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 is all the way on the north end. So this is up near the Coles, Howell Creek area. So they finished that up. They're finished grading some of the slopes, cut the fill, just moving dirt around along the alignment. Abutment B cut, this is north of Rio Mills Road, back behind the abutment. They're starting to bring that grade down. And remember, they kind of started up on the northern end of the project and were working south. So as you, actually, if you were to drive that project, you can see the progress as you go from north to south. So there's a lot of progress up north. They're just getting into really the south end near Rio Mills, the north side of the river there. Slope protection installation, I think I've got a picture of that. That's below abutment B. You'll be able to see what that is and what that looks like. Completing the beam seat preparations, so they've been up there grinding on these things, making sure they're level, getting them ready for the beams to come in. Silicone treatment on the piers, they want to seal those up so no water's getting in. They're continuing to drill and blast up on the northern section near the Coles. They bring that grade down.
Does that finish the blasting?
No, there's a little more scheduled for next week. We thought that this week they might finish that up and they push that into next week. Abutment A drainage, so they're working on getting all that water down. There's a very steep slope there between the abutment and the river. We got to install those pipes on a very steep slope, get it to the bottom so it's not eroding the riverbank. Crane mobilizations, we received delivery this week of a 300-ton crane, which makes the one that we had out there that we've been seeing pictures of, the white crane, makes it look small. And there are 2 500-ton cranes coming next week. And those will be used to set the girders.
Remember we talked about splicing the girders in the fields and the beams and lifting them.
Where do they come from?
Honestly, I'm not sure exactly where they're bringing the cranes from, wherever their last job was. They've got a subcontractor named High Steel that is supplying, delivering, and setting all the girders. Quite honestly, they're pretty much regarded as the best in the business. So we're very confident about what they're doing. They know what they're doing. We trust them. We've got a lot of experience with them. So we're going to let them do their thing, and we're going to kind of stay back and be safe. They come in pieces on trucks. So. Okay, this is a view from abutment B, standing just above abutment B. So looking down, right here on the bottom of the screen is abutment B, Pier 2, Pier 1, abutment A.
So that's back behind Sam's Club, right?
No, this is on the other side.
Oh, it's on the other side, that's right. Yeah,
so we're looking to the south.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can see the slopes.
Sam's Club's up there.
Yeah, Sam's Club will be up on the right. You can see the slopes.
Right behind our webcam.
Yeah, exactly.
The non-budget.
Yeah. But you can see the slopes in the background. That's finished grading and seeding, getting those stabilized. But this is looking down the alignment of the future bridge, looking straight down. So.
You're really good at these. These pictures are really
Oh, thank you. I mean,
I mean,
Lou's taken a lot of these
they're-
pictures too. That are,
Okay, well, they're almost artistic, but they're really good at being able to figure out what is where and how it works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you can see the old crane there on the right. That is a 110-ton crane. You can see a piece of what we call the jib there on that trailer, and how much bigger it is than that other crane. It's a massive crane. That one's already in place. I didn't get a picture of it today, but I wish I would have. Next meeting, we'll have some nice crane pictures, I'm sure.
And you can see the seats again on the piers that we look at.
Yeah, each one of these little areas here that's raised up a little bit, those are the seats, those are where the beams will sit. There's seats on the abutments in each one of the piers. See, there's 5 girder lines we talked about last time. Okay. I don't think I did have a slope protection.
No,
Okay.
you had your DEQ, but
Yeah.
this is important. You can tell them about
It is, yeah. So we had a visit from DEQ this week. They came out to review all the stream crossings, and we got a little work to do, quite honestly. We had some big storms a couple of weeks ago that washed out some silt fence, and we got some cleanup to do. They're working on that. They started working on it as soon as DEQ left. I'm hoping that we'll be done cleaning everything up before we ever get their report. So they understand there's things to clean up, and we got 3.5 inches of rain over a very short period of time. But that's what they're there for. But this is a picture of them standing in front of Pond 2, which is in the southern portion of the project. Okay, so lane closures this week, they've just had flagging operations for when the trucks are coming in, delivering the crane and parts of the crane, all these different things. They'll continue with, if they need short-term closures of the road. I don't expect that right now, but over the next 2 weeks, they will need some closures on Rio Mills as they start setting the beams over top of the road. We don't set beams over live traffic, so we'll have to close the road for that. So
What's the schedule on the girder deliveries again?
The girders are coming next week.
Next week.
And then they'll probably continue to come as they're being set. And we're scheduled to set the first beams on the 6th, so the day after Labor Day.
Cool.
Yeah. And we're looking at about a week and a half, week to a week and a half for that.
Okay.
So, and that's on here, that's actually at the bottom of the list of work this week. Erosion control maintenance, slope finish grading, continuing that, excavation at the roundabout, getting that wrapped up, continuing that abutment B cut just on the north side of the river, installation of the overhang jacks. This is what helps them. They install those on the piers so they have platforms to work off of while getting the beam set. More drilling and blasting behind the coals. Above A drainage will continue. Various drainage structures throughout the project as they get to them. They'll continue crane assembly. They have to assemble the 500-ton cranes next week and setting the bearings up. They're actually elastomeric pads that the steel beams sit on, so they're not sitting directly on concrete. And then setting the girders starting the 6th, so not next week, but the week after. And this is where, if you go to the next slide, Lou, right here, this is the addition. We're looking at 4-hour closures. We think it'll take closer to 2 hours, but we want to leave plenty of time in there just in case. So from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Rio Mills Road will have closures. Lou's going to be sending out traffic alerts about that, and also we'll have the portable message boards up, letting people know that Rio Mills will be closed between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on those days. Just that section down there by the road. Any questions?
Beginning September the 7th, for about how long would that?
There are 3 days, excuse me, I thought it was 6, okay, 7th, 8th, and 9th of that week, and then 3 days the following week is currently what we're expecting. And hopefully that duration will be shorter.
Yeah. Okay.
Any questions on Barkmore? Okay, Al?
Dave? Hillsdale worked this week. Fielder's Choice is continuing to mobilize. They're in different areas of the project. So when they go to a new area, they can, you can consider that mobilization in that other area. Continuing with environmental controls, silt fence, erosion, sediment control measures. Utility relocations continue. The building demolition is beginning this week. I know the building contractor was on site today on the inside, taking some of the final things out of the inside. Hopefully they'll get started on actually exterior progress by tomorrow. Phase 1 clearing. At the end of Pepsi Place, they've begun clearing on that side, on the north side, to the south with the construction entrance and some clearing. Removing existing fencing, installing temporary fencing, and beginning excavation and embankment construction. No significant lane closures this week. I'll have a picture of you of a ped detour around the building area. I'll show you in a few moments. Next slide, Lee. This is the end of Pepsi Place. They put in a construction entrance, and since this was taken, they've begun some of the excavation work here and grubbing that soil. Next slide. This is the south looking to the north at the commercial area in Seminole Square. A pedestrian detour was set up. Today they were adjusting that, giving a little more room to the building contractor for that demolition work. So they were working in there today to get pedestrians to get around this area from what would be the west and east sides of the future two buildings. Okay. The next 2 weeks they will continue to install erosion sediment control, environmental measures, continue to survey, continue relocating utilities. Phase 1 clearing continues, and they'll be getting into more of the drainage and pipe work. Okay, next.
Very good.
Questions on Hillsdale?
You know about Kroger building?
Yes.
Will those two projects interfere with each other potentially?
They will certainly have to coordinate amongst the two. They may be able to combine some measures or fencing, but that will be a coordination effort.
They also, the
that will need to
equipment
take
kind
place.
of running in very close proximity.
The contractors would be coordinating.
That's right. They will have to do that.
Yeah.
It's a large area mainly off of the Hillsdale alignment back in the back there.
It's a few hundred feet away. But
Yeah,
that's right.
Potentially, there could be some interference with traffic.
Right.
If they didn't coordinate, yeah.
It's probably not a big deal, but they have to pay attention that they may be into each other's way just traffic-wise,
Right.
not construction-wise, but traffic.
Right. Philip, you'd asked about schedule. My understanding is early next week, all the comments on the schedule will be delivered back to Fielder's Choice, and then they can make any adjustments and talk through that.
Good,
So,
thank you.
mhm.
I think we may have asked this before. Are there liquidated damages if they don't meet that October 2017 completion date in the contract? Is that right? Does anybody know offhand?
Yeah, there are liquidated
Yeah.
damages. Yes.
There are.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Al, Dave. You'll recall that when we were kind of in our special focus period on Hillsdale, we were having weekly phone calls with, for a while, I think you were doing every other day phone calls. And then we went to our weekly, twice a week phone calls, went from three times a week to twice a week, to once a week. And what we've done is continued those calls in as part of our regular Monday morning calls. So the city's on the line, and we will continue to do that until these things are finished. In terms of the budget, the design build projects, and remember this is the construction value from the design builders, invoiced about another $16 million since our July update. This exposure, this has been added to exposure, $7.3 million. That is the incentive. So the incentive is in the exposure. A change order will be written so it can be paid. So that's added in. This is just the deduction in remaining contract value from what was invoiced. So our total expected expenditure at completion now reflects the added incentive into the exposure of 126 million, and we still have our 6-year plan allocations of 156 million in round numbers. So a lot of activity over the last month, obviously, as all the intensive work for the intersection itself starts to get billed and ultimately paid.
One thing I'd like to clarify about that 16 million, which is quite a bit higher than what we've seen in the past, of 5 to 6 million per pay period. At our last meeting a month ago, when we went over this number, we hadn't made the payment yet. We actually approved it the next day. So that actually extended back a little further than normal. It happened the day following.
And I would have expected that number to be higher this time.
Yeah.
Anyway, based on the work that was done. But thanks. And we'll come back and look. Well, let's do that. Let's do this now. In round numbers, this $116 million for the construction value, the design builder value, breaks down, round numbers, $39 million for Rio, $39 million for Rio, $44 million for 29 widening, and $33 million for Berkmar in round numbers. Now, if you recall, we talked about Rio being around $69 million total. So $39 million of that number is the design builder's construction cost, right? The design builder's construction cost. You have to add on to that right-of-way cost, the cost of the incentive, the cost of construction engineering and inspection, and the cost of the preliminary engineering that VDOT performed. So that's why you see more money programmed in the 6-year plan than just the value of the construction contract. And we made a conscious decision when we put this chart together, if you'll recall, and said, look, we can track the construction cost as money's invoiced and as money moves over, it's identified as exposure and moves over into change orders. So the Rio GSI, you could say the construction value of a contractor building it was around, again, if we want to use a big round number, $39, $40 million. But the total cost of delivering it for the taxpayers is around $69 or $70 million when you add in right-of-way, construction engineering, management, all the preliminary engineering work that took place before there was a construction, even a construction contract, and the incentive. That money that was identified as incentive only gets added in after it's earned, because what was the maximum incentive?
10.3 total, 9 million directly for Ryan.
Yeah, right. So that's how it breaks down. I think that's what you were getting at, Henry.
If you want to buy another GSI, what ballpark do we have to kind of have in mind? The ballpark is somewhere around 70 million.
Yeah. Another one like this one. Yeah.
Another one like this one.
Yeah.
We make one totally bigger.
Right.
That's
right.
At least you have a reference point.
Yeah.
What did this one cost?
Yes.
Well, if we do a one that's exactly the same, hopefully it would be.
And right-of-way's the same, and this is the same, and that, yeah.
Things are radically different,
Yes.
radically
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something to hang your hat on.
Right, right.
Especially Mark wants to build 7 more. I keep saying that. Yeah, I have to give you a hard time, Mark.
The Best Buy ramp, Route 29, 250 in the interchange is pretty well cleaned up now. There's a little bit more invoice. If you remember, we had a negative remaining contract value. I think all those details are about settled out now. And as some of this money moves from exposure to change order, the negative value will disappear and will adjust. Well, we think this is where it's going to end up. That'll be pretty much where it ends up. So 12 million and some change, 12.1 million, if you round things off, when all is said and done, will be where that ended up, which still keeps us within the amount that was allocated in the 6-year program. We'll keep this on here until it does clean up, but I think any changes we see from here on out will be minor. No change here on the adaptive signals, but we'll just keep that on so we don't lose track of it. Hillsdale, a little, invoice from the early mobilization of around $300,000. Some exposure starting to be identified there. As we say, remember, this was a design bid build, so as changes are noted, we'll have to keep track of that. Identifying exposure early doesn't mean we're going to spend the money. It's just like, hey, well, there's a few things out there that are some risks. That's all. We talked about that before. Exposure is really the identification of risk and putting some monetary value to it. We add the exposure into the anticipated final construction cost because we want to be careful of how we're looking at that. As things get rolling on, this will start making more sense. In the big scheme of things, the totals that we've been looking at are good as far as I'm concerned. Where we think we'll end up and the amount of money that we had programmed in total, still about a $30 million difference there, and I don't think we'll be spending that $30 million, but we're not giving it to Mark either just yet. So the budget, we'll keep looking at it every other meeting as we have been, and as you all look at it, any questions you have, give a shout. We good there? All right. I think we talked about this. Chip gave us a little interim update a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of meetings ago, on the business assistance program. The county put up $1,000. We put up $200,000, and you also had the $50,000 matching fund from the county. And Chip, I know you have an update. Yep. You're welcome to come up here and do it, or you're welcome to sit right there and do it.
Do it from right here.
Okay.
Just an update with more information as well as more up-to-date information. This runs through the end of July now. And these are some numbers straight from our marketing consultant. But total through July 31st has been just short of 10 million impressions. And conversations earlier, the first thing I did when I saw this report was Googled media impressions. I had no clue. Sounded like a lot to me for anything. But impressions are an opportunity to be seen. So if there was a television ad and the viewership of that nightly news was 20,000, then there would be 20,000 impressions counted. If it's a newspaper ad, the circulation of 10,000, there would be 10,000 impressions or 10,000 opportunities to see that ad. So Now, it doesn't mean they saw it, doesn't mean they did anything with it, it was just that opportunity to see. But so far with this program, there have been just 9.91 million impressions. Of those, pretty evenly split, 4.3 million has been traditional, radio, television, newsprint, and then 5.5 million have been digital, emails and Facebook, social media types of impressions.
But Chip, does this 10 million, is this 10 million limited to the program you ran for the business assistance?
Yes.
Doesn't include all the stuff that VDOT,
Right.
that Lou's been
Right.
made. Okay.
Right.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The website had just short of 5,000 total visits, May being the biggest month with nearly half of those just in the month of May. And of course, as we talked before, also the 30,000 printed maps and also 590 maps were downloaded from the website itself. Within the digital media, the electronic media, what SIR found and we're a little bit surprised with is half of those came on mobile devices. So it wasn't so much people sitting at home or at work on a computer, it was more iPads, mobile phones and those that went to the website, received and opened and clicked emails from their mobile devices.
Is this Route29Solutions.org or the county's business assistance website?
No, this is the website that we put together for the marketing.
Yeah, okay,
Not
okay.
VDOT's
All right,
website.
all right.
Just
Rio and 29.
Yeah, Rio 29.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But it would also include Facebook pushes that
Got my
that
stick.
that were pushed out to people who,
Yeah, okay.
who, if you were just looking through your Facebook, an ad would come up.
Okay.
So, again, half of those were on mobile devices. Of the electronic, again, media, the 5.5 million impressions, those then generated almost 10,000 openings. So of 5,000 opportunities where the impressions were in front of somebody, almost 10,000 times the person clicked on it to find out more information from those, which again was very high. We have these broken out by month as well. May was the largest month, in July the next to largest month, running anywhere from 1.5 million impressions to 1.7 million every month, and then August just really took a dip to below 100,000.
So the month we closed and the month we opened were the
Were the big ones,
yeah.
and then August it started to go away. Traditional media, the print, TV, radio, that was 4.35 million, and those pretty much ended for the initial round on August 7th. So won't be a whole lot more of those in the future months. Now it's turning into, that type of marketing has ended. Now it's turning into a thank you. We appreciate you working with us through the construction period, and we welcome you to continue from this point forward. So kind of a transitioning phase out of the construction period. Budget-wise, as Philip said, VDOT contributed $200,000 and Albemarle County matched $100,000. Through July 31st, $247,000 of that has been spent, and we anticipate to spend the remaining through August and September and into early October. As a reminder, the county also contributed an additional $50,000 that was a matching program for small businesses, and 21 businesses took advantage of that. And a lot of those, you've probably seen the ads that wasn't as Route 29 focused, but each one had that logo somewhere on their ads. So 21 businesses did participate, and through the county, they worked with the Small Business Development Center, who had over 40 businesses take some type of classes or receive assistance from the Small Business Development Center with how to market themselves better, any number of different business management practices. So again, another really successful program. If you're interested in, I didn't want to put it all together. It's about 50 pages total. But I've got this and be glad I can email it to everybody. We've got a couple of corrections in it.
Yeah.
Email this out.
Well, why don't you just get it to Debbie, and we'll take care of that. But for people online, we'll also put it on the website with the documents from today's meeting. I mean, that's great information, Chip. Thanks. And I think it shows the value of not only what the county stepped up with $150,000, the small business assistance, plus the matching money. That's not chump change, but also the value of the state stepping up with what we thought was going to be a dollar-for-dollar match, and actually a 2-for-1 match paid off. I mean, I think the long and short of it was, even though Lou printed 30,000 maps for 57 days, that's a small price to pay for the value of helping folks get around for that time, and also the value of Lou's shoe leather, which I still think, quite honestly, we'll never be able to put a dollar figure on the value of Lou being eyeball to eyeball with all those folks in those businesses. And I'm sure not every one of those discussions was a pleasant one. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I've got a few of those maps left if anybody wants to see them.
I think Grace got
Seen
paper on the other
the
side.
Chamber's sales receipt release came
No.
out. That's 6 or 7% up in Albemarle County over last year, which was above last year.
Well, there you go. That's good.
Of course, it'd be nice to know a little bit more targeted around this area. which
Well,
takes
it's
a little
good
bit more
news
effort.
regardless.
But at least
It's good
it
news
wasn't
regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
negative.
I remember one of the first things at this panel's first meeting, one of the first things that was mentioned as a goal or a success indicator would be not to lose any sales tax receipts in the quarter. And I realize that's a county number, but
And I do know that the county is continuing to work. There's been meetings held with the businesses just to hear their anecdotal response. But
and there's a survey out there, isn't there, also
there's
that
a
the county
survey,
pushed
there's
out?
an online survey directly to the businesses in the area.
Yeah, good.
Meetings with the businesses, and
Good.
then as sales figures come in to the county, they're trying to, the best they can, pick out for that area and be able to compare that to prior to construction.
Well, good, good. Well, Chip, if you don't mind, maybe checking with SIR, I know that's their product, and getting an okay, get that to Deb, and we'll put it up and make sure the panel has it and the public has it as well. Thank you. Any questions for Chip on that? It's great. Thank you. And thanks for managing the money and that program. I know you had a great committee together, but if you'll recall, when VDOT put up their money, we said we don't want to make it bureaucratic. John Lynch worked up a memorandum of agreement. We'll let Chip manage that, manage the bucks. So, thank you. Next, we wanted to just get caught up to date on signal timing, observations, and adjustments. And Joel, that's you.
All right, well, I think at the last advisory panel meeting, David talked about some signal changes to the corridor that were basically called offset timing changes. Now, I think he explained it pretty well. The offset timing changes basically get the north and southbound traffic lined up. So you get that continuous flow that we used to see prior to all the construction out there, and we're trying to restore those movements. So as of Friday afternoon, the RKK engineers and our VDOT traffic signal engineers, they implemented a new plan to get those offset timings corrected or adjusted properly. And so that went into effect Friday. I actually drove the corridor Saturday, Sunday, yesterday, and today. I think I noticed a pretty good change to them. Specifically, you can see this morning, I was out there from about 8:30 to 9:30. You can see the southbound traffic. I was going northbound, and you could see the southbound traffic platooning. And it seems like you have a platoon every 2 to 3 signals, which seems like it's operating pretty well. You also see as one platoon will catch up the other, how it releases the cars that come from side streets in between. I think that's working pretty well. I got in the southbound traffic this morning at the same time I think I went through there about 3 times. I went through the southbound depressed lanes twice, and I went through the Rio local lanes once. And I thought that the depressed lanes worked very well. I think that they work as you expected. You see that green band, and it's flowing traffic well. I have not had a chance to be out there in the afternoon peak. I did notice that around 9 o'clock this morning, I think we changed our timing patterns, and we talked to Grant Sanders about that. I'm not so sure that we don't want to extend that morning time a little bit beyond 9 o'clock if that's where it's changing, because you can see a little bit of difference there. We tend to have a little bit of a later peak hour in the area than a lot of other places. In addition to that, they made some changes. I don't know when the changes were made, but as of this morning, it seemed that Rio Mills Road and Polo Grounds Road, they really are trying to make some changes. The side street times there, you can't really do anything with the north-southbound traffic because you got to get that traffic flowing. But there's so little traffic on the Rio Mills side and a larger portion on the Polo Grounds Road that it used to be that Polo Grounds Road phase would go first, and then Rio Mills would come afterwards. They flipped that around recently, and what they've done is that as opposed, it's the same amount of green time seconds for those 2 side streets, but they've programmed it so if there's nobody at Rio Mills, it goes first. It identifies there's nobody there. It basically cuts it off, and it gives additional time to the Polo Grounds. And they said they observed that a number of times. I think it's working well. I didn't see any queues that weren't clearing this morning. So.
Okay.
I also observed this morning the southbound Route 29 local lanes, dual left turn lanes, that we saw an increase in traffic when the John Warner Parkway, when the interchange was open last year. I saw the traffic clearing those queues pretty well this morning. Now I do expect that we'll have to keep looking at it as the final paving gets completed, and as the speed limit of 35, as the work zone speed limit is removed, we'll probably have to look at it again. People are going over 35, however, I think the variance in speeds will decrease once we adjust the speed limit back. So we'll have to look at the corridor and probably make some offset timing changes again.
Okay. Okay. If you'll recall, Grant Sanders is the guy we met when, for those of you that went out to the Traffic Operations Center, can make a lot of these changes real time. We pushed out the software, or pushed out the package of timing changes a couple of weeks ago, right after the GSI opened. And then since then, I think we've gone through a couple of rounds of tweaks, and we'll just keep watching it and keep doing that. But Joel, if you would keep coming back for the next couple of meetings with a little update from, as you get information from Grant. And we're going to take a look at these pedestrian issues that Mark brought up. We should talk to Grant about, or whether he's the guy or somebody at the Traffic Operations Center.
RKK and Grant.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. There are 2 other areas that we've talked about previously that I've been keeping an eye on this week. Woodbrook.
Yeah.
At lunchtime, northbound left turn to Woodbrook is functioning much better.
Because we had some backup there in that queue.
And it's still backing up on occasion to the end of the storage, but it releases almost immediately as it backs up there during the heaviest traffic time, and it clears out the entire queue.
And that's still middle of the day?
Yeah, lunchtime hour.
Yeah,
and
okay.
10 to 2 range. So that's working a lot better. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. The other thing is that Hilton Heights, we had some complaints about the left turn.
Yes.
Northbound at Hilton Heights, and we've regularly been seeing that 12 to 14 second green time there, so that's working as it should now. So
Good.
those were 2 hot spots that we had talked about.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, your observations or any feedback that you pick up from others on the timing is important. All righty. Joel, thanks, man. New business and wrap up. Henry?
I had enough before.
Good. Brad? Mark?
Students are back.
Students are back. How'd that go? How'd that go traffic-wise?
It went well. Last
week.
Friday and Saturday was moving days, I
Yeah.
think.
That's what I went through on Saturday.
I don't think anything bubbled up to us through any comments on the website or anything, so.
No, that actually just reminded me of something that I did want to point out.
Okay.
For some reason this week, there's been a lot more emergency vehicles. I mean, we can hear them from our office when they're driving down 29, and just that factors into what we're seeing in the traffic, because when they activate the emergency preemption, it throws the corridor off. But I don't know why. It just seems like there's been a lot of
20-some thousand
fire
more people.
emails.
Yeah.
That may be it.
I
Yeah.
know Green County Rescue 2 days this week had 6 calls one day and 8 calls the next day between the hours
Wow.
of 8 and 5 p.m.
Wow.
They were running trucks up and down.
Is it a full
Around
loop?
6 o'clock yesterday, there was an accident on the northbound lanes somewhere near the Green County line.
And
Okay.
Burn station.
Okay.
Related to the GSI, in addition to UVA, Elmore High School's back in session.
Right. High school's back in session, so.
Including my daughter, there's many of these teenage drivers going back.
Inexperienced
Yeah,
drivers.
okay. All right.
She didn't have any difficulties crossing 29. So.
Good.
Got football game next weekend.
September the 2nd, first home football game.
It'll be good.
We know that. Third, that's right. Second was September the 3rd.
No work that night.
No work that night. Yes.
3:30 p.m. Get your
Yeah.
shopping done early and go home.
I did have one question
Yes.
I thought of earlier and I forgot about. So Labor Day, is construction going to stop so that its vacation traffic is moving, or does it not make a difference?
They're going to work that Friday night, so that's the 2nd, correct? And
Yeah.
so that
It's the
night, they will not work Saturday, they will not work Saturday night, they will not work Sunday or Sunday night, will not work Monday, but they will be working Monday night.
Well, that's lovely for them and also for traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lou will be putting out, you'll be doing your holiday media alert. Mark, we kind of finished in the middle with you. Any wrap up? Morgan? Good? Chip? Okay, thank you, and thanks for everybody tuning in. Our next meeting is September the 8th. We'll see you then. And as soon as that, we get that from Chip, I'll let you know that that's up on the website. All right, thank you, everybody.